Close your eyes now. Let your whole body sink a little deeper into the bed. Feel the soft weight of the blanket resting on your chest like a gentle hand. Breathe in slowly and breathe out even slower. Good. Tonight we're going to drift far away from everything, far away from the noise of the day. And we're going to board a quiet night train that's rolling softly through the heart of Europe. The kind of train that rocks you like a cradle. The kind of train that rocks you like a cradle. The kind that makes your eyelids feel heavier with every click-clack of the wheels on the rails. Tonight I'm going to whisper you the entire story of Before Sunrise, the 1995 film by Richard Linklater. Every single moment, every breath, every tiny glance, every secret they shared under the Vienna street lamps, nothing will be hidden. We will walk with them through the whole night until the first pale light of morning finds them again, and by the time they part, you will be so deeply asleep that the sunrise will feel like it belongs only to your dreams. Let the train sounds grow a little closer now. Soft metal wheels, a very low hum, the occasional sigh of steam. Imagine you're lying in a dim compartment. The lights are low amber. The window is streaked with a few tiny raindrops that catch the passing lights like scattered diamonds. And somewhere down the corridor, two strangers are about to meet. Two people who don't know yet that the next 12 hours will quietly change everything. Did you know that Richard Linklater wrote the first draft of this script in just 11 days? But then spent months walking the actual streets of Vienna at night with Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, letting them talk and talk until the dialogue felt like it had always belonged to Jesse and Céline. Almost 80% of what you hear in the film was improvised on the spot. Real conversations between two real friends who were falling a little in love with the city and with each other while the cameras rolled. Breathe in, breathe out. Feel your shoulders melt. Feel your thoughts slow down to the exact speed of this train. Because very soon a young American man with messy brown hair and a slightly broken heart is going to stand up from his seat. He's going to walk down the aisle, and he's going to notice a French girl reading a book. And everything, absolutely everything, is going to begin with the softest, most accidental brush of destinies. Have you ever met someone for only a moment, maybe on a train, maybe in a cafe, and felt, deep inside, that the universe had nudged you closer for a reason you couldn't yet name? Just let that question float gently in your mind. No need to answer. Just let it rest there like a feather on still water. The year is 1994. The train is leaving Budapest heading west through the night toward Paris, and Jesse, 20-something, a little lost after a painful breakup in Spain, is trying to figure out how to fly home to America with almost no money. He's wearing a faded green jacket. His backpack is stuffed with crumpled clothes and a half-read copy of All the Pretty Horses. He feels older than he is, and younger at the same time. Across the aisle, Céline, a student at the Sorbonne, is coming home from visiting her grandmother in Budapest. She has soft auburn hair that falls just past her shoulders. She's wearing a light blue sweater and a simple silver necklace, and she's reading a book by Georges Bataille. Her eyes move slowly across the page, but every few seconds she glances out the window at the dark fields sliding by. She feels the same quiet ache that Jesse feels, the ache of being 23, and already wondering if life will ever feel as... A German couple a few rows ahead starts arguing, voices rising, plates clattering in the dining car. Céline sighs, closes her book, stands up to move away from the noise, and that's when Jesse sees her, really sees her. The way the dim light catches the side of her face, the way she tucks a strand of hair behind her ear with a tiny unconscious grace. Something in his chest moves. Not love yet, just recognition, the feeling of, Oh, there you are, even though they've never met. He stands up too, walks over, hesitates for one heartbeat, and then says the simplest thing in the world. Hi. His voice is soft, a little nervous but warm, and Céline turns, looks at him, and smiles the smallest, most curious smile, and just like that, the night opens its arms. Let your breathing match the rhythm of the train now. In, out, slow, slower. Feel the gentle sway. Feel how safe it is to let go, because I'm here, whispering every detail, and nothing can disturb you, nothing at all. The train rocks you gently, almost like a mother's arms, and in that soft cradle, Jessie sits down beside Céline in the empty dining car. The tables still have little crumbs from earlier passengers, and the air smells faintly of coffee and warm bread. He says something small, something about the arguing couple, how it's impossible to read when people are shouting in a language you half understand. Céline laughs, a quiet, surprised laugh that makes her eyes crinkle at the corners, and she answers in perfect English, with the softest French lilt curling around every word like smoke. They talk. At first it's careful, polite, two strangers testing the temperature of the water with a toe. He tells her he's been backpacking, that he missed his flight home on purpose because he wasn't ready to go back to real life. She tells him she spent the week with her grandmother in a tiny village outside Budapest, eating plum cake and listening to stories about the war. Their voices stay low, almost whispers already, because the train itself feels like a secret place after midnight. Outside the windows, the world is nothing but black fields and the occasional cluster of yellow lights from a distant farmhouse. Inside, the fluorescent lights above them flicker once, twice, then settle into a steady amber glow that paints soft gold across Céline's cheekbones. Jessie notices the tiny freckle just to the left of her nose. Céline notices the way Jessie's hands keep moving when he talks, long fingers sketching invisible pictures in the air. Have you ever noticed how quickly time stretches when you meet someone who truly listens? How 10 minutes can feel like an hour, and an hour can feel like the first real moment you've ever lived. Just let that thought drift across your mind like a cloud. No need to hold it, just feel it pass. Jessie asks what she's reading. She shows him the cover, Story of the Eye by Bedtime. He raises an eyebrow, half teasing, and says he tried to read it once but got lost in the first 10 pages. Céline smiles and says maybe that's the point, that some books aren't meant to be understood, only felt. Their knees are almost touching under the little table. Neither of them moves away. Trivia drifting in now, very softly. Did you know that Julie Delpy actually suggested the Georges Bataille book herself? She brought it to set because it was one of her favorites in university, and Linklater loved the idea so much, he rewrote the scene that same afternoon so Céline would be reading something that felt dangerous and beautiful at the same time. The train announcement crackles overhead, Vienna Westbahnhof in 20 minutes. Céline's face falls for just a second. She has to change trains here for Paris. Jessie feels it too, this tiny panic that the best conversation of his life is about to end. He looks at her, really looks, and the words come out before he can stop them. What if you got off the train with me? Just for tonight. We could walk around Vienna until morning. I have almost no money, but I promise I'll get you back to the station in time for the early train to Paris. Silence. The longest, softest silence you've ever felt. Céline looks down at her hands, then out the window, then back at him. Her lips part. She's thinking about how insane this is. She's thinking about how alive she suddenly feels. She's thinking about the way his eyes are the exact color of the sky just before rain. And then she smiles, small and brave, and says, "Okay, just okay." One word. But it changes everything. The train slows, brakes, sighing like a long exhale. They stand up together. Jesse grabs his battered backpack. Céline slips her book into her tiny woven bag. Their shoulders brush as they walk down the narrow corridor, and neither of them apologizes for the contact. The doors open with a soft hydraulic hiss, and cool night air rushes in carrying the scent of rain on stone and distant chestnuts roasting somewhere in the city. They step onto the platform. The station is almost empty, just a few sleepy travelers and the echo of their footsteps. Overhead, the big clock shows 2:17 a.m. Jesse turns to her and says, "So where should we go?" Céline laughs again, that same surprised sound, and shrugs like a child who's just been told she can stay up all night. "I have no idea," she says. "Let's just walk." And they do. Out of the station, past the last taxi idling at the curb, into the quiet streets, where the street lamps make little pools of warm light on the wet cobblestones. Their footsteps fall into the same rhythm almost immediately. Left, right, soft and steady, like a heartbeat. The city smells like old stone and summer rain. Somewhere a church bell rings once, low and far away. Have you ever felt the exact moment when fear turns into excitement? When the thought of doing something completely unreasonable suddenly feels like the only reasonable thing in the world. Just rest with that feeling for a moment. Let it settle in your chest like warm tea. They pass a tiny tram rattling along the tracks, empty except for the driver who nods at them as if strangers walking at 3 in the morning is the most natural thing on earth. Jesse tells her about the time he tried to hitchhike from Madrid to Barcelona and ended up spending the night in a field with a herd of goats. Céline tells him about the summer she worked in a bookstore in Paris and fell in love with a customer who only ever bought poetry and never spoke to her once. Their laughter is soft, careful not to wake the sleeping city. "Trivia," whispered so gently. The very first scene they filmed together was this walk from the station. Linklater wanted the actors exhausted and slightly disoriented from jet lag so the wonder they felt would be completely real. They walked the actual route at 3 a.m. with a tiny crew, no permits, hiding from police twice, and every second of magic you see on screen is exactly what happened that night. They reach a little bridge over the Donna Canal. The water below is black and glossy, reflecting the street lights in long, trembling ribbons. Céline stops and leans on the railing. Jesse stands beside her, close enough that their sleeves touch. For a long time they just look at the water. Then Céline says, very quietly, "I always believed that if two people were meant to meet, they would find each other no matter what. Do you think that's stupid?" Jesse thinks about it, really thinks, and answers, "I want to believe it. Tonight I really want to believe it." The air between them feels charged, like the moment just before the first drop of rain falls. Céline turns to him. Their faces are very close now. You can almost hear their breathing. But neither of them kisses the other. Not yet. Instead, they smile, small secret smiles, and keep walking. Let your own breathing slow to match theirs now. In, out, deeper, deeper. Feel how safe it is to walk through this quiet city with them. Nothing can touch you here. Only whispers and footsteps, and the gentle promise of a night that hasn't decided how it will end. The city opens its arms wider now, guiding them deeper into its old heart. The cobblestones are slick from an earlier rain, and every footstep makes the tiniest soft click that echoes between the tall, pale buildings. Street lamps cast long amber halos that melt into each other, and the air smells of wet stone, faint cigarette smoke from a late-night bar, and something sweet, maybe linden trees blooming somewhere close. Their shadows walk ahead of them, stretching and shrinking with every lamp they pass, sometimes merging into one long shape before separating again. They find themselves in front of a tiny funfair that has stayed open far past its usual hour, just a few rides glowing sleepily in the dark. The Ferris wheel turns so slowly it almost seems still, each gondola rocking gently like a cradle. A man with a thick mustache sells them tickets for almost nothing, waving away the correct change with a tired smile. Jesse and Céline climb into a pale blue gondola, the door clanging shut behind them with a soft metallic sigh. As they rise, the city spreads beneath them in a quiet sea of golden lights and black velvet rooftops. The only sound is the faint creak of the wheel and their own breathing. Up here the wind is cooler, brushing Celine's hair across her cheek. Jesse watches the strands move like silk threads in moonlight. She turns to him and says, almost too softly to hear, "When I was little, I used to believe that if you made a wish at the very top of a Ferris wheel, it would come true before the ride ended." Jesse smiles, the kind of smile that starts in his eyes and only later reaches his mouth. "What would you wish for right now?" he asks. Céline looks out over the sleeping city, then back at him. "That this night never has to end," she whispers. The gondola reaches the top and pauses, swaying gently. For one long moment, the entire world is suspended with them. Then it begins its slow descent, carrying their unspoken wish back down to earth. Have you ever been so high above everything that your heart felt weightless? Just let that memory, or that dream of a memory, float up now. Let it rise and fall with the gondola, up and softly down. They leave the funfair and wander into a narrow alley where a street musician is playing an old accordion. The notes are slow and melancholy, curling through the air like incense. Céline closes her eyes and sways a little. Jesse drops a few coins into the open case, and the musician nods gratefully, never missing a beat. They stand there for a long time, shoulder to shoulder, letting the music wrap around them. When the song ends, the silence feels almost sacred. Trivia, whispered like a secret between friends. This accordion player was not an actor. He was a real Viennese street musician named Richard Linklater, who happened to be playing that exact corner at 4 in the morning. Linklater heard him from 2 streets away, ran over with the camera, and asked if he could play one more song. The man said yes, and the scene you see in the film is the very first take. Completely unplanned, completely perfect. A little farther on, they discover a tiny poetry shop that has left its door open to the night. Inside, the shelves are crammed with books, and the air smells of old paper and candle wax. A woman with silver hair and kind eyes invites them in. She asks if they would like to hear a poem. Jesse and Céline nod, shy suddenly, like children. The woman lights a single candle on the counter, opens a worn book, and begins to read in slow, lilting German. They don't understand every word, but they understand everything. When she finishes, she tears the page from the book and gives it to Céline. for the night you will never forget," she says. Céline folds the poem carefully and slips it into her pocket, next to her heart. They step back into the street feeling different, lighter, as if the poem has rearranged something inside them. Céline looks at Jesse and says, "Do you think people can fall in love in one night?" Jesse thinks for a long time. The street lamp above them flickers once, painting them gold, then shadow, then gold again. "I think people can fall in love in 1 minute," he answers. "The rest of the night is just finding the courage to admit it." Let that courage settle over you now, soft as the warm light on their faces. You don't need to do anything with it. Just let it be there. Gentle, patient. They find a small park and sit on a bench beneath a huge chestnut tree. The leaves rustle overhead like quiet applause. Céline leans her head back and closes her eyes. Jesse watches the way moonlight falls across her throat, the delicate line of her collarbone beneath the thin sweater. After a while, she opens her eyes and says, "Tell me something you've never told anyone." Jesse exhales slowly, as though the words have been waiting years to be spoken. He tells her about the night his grandmother died, how he was 9, and believed that if he stayed awake until sunrise, she might come back. Céline listens without moving, her hand resting on the bench only inches from his. When he finishes, she places her fingers very lightly over his. No pressure, just contact. Just enough to say, "I heard you, and I'm still here." Have you ever told someone a secret and felt the world become a little less heavy afterward? Just breathe into that memory. Let the weight drift off your shoulders like morning mist. A little later, they come across a group of young people sitting on the grass drinking wine from plastic cups. One of them, a girl with bright pink hair, waves them over. Within minutes, Jesse and Céline are part of the circle, passing a bottle of cheap Gruner Veltliner and laughing at jokes they only half understand. Someone starts playing a battered guitar. Céline rests her head on Jesse's shoulder, without thinking about it. He feels the warmth of her cheek through his shirt and realizes he has never been happier to be exactly where he is. The sky has begun to pale at the edges, the deepest indigos softening into lavender. They thank their new friends and walk on, fingers brushing now and then, neither of them quite daring to hold hands yet. They pass the Praterstern clock tower, then a quiet square where an old man is already setting up his flower stand. He offers Céline a single white rose for free, because the night has been kind to you both. She tucks it behind her ear, and the petals glow against her hair like a tiny moon. Trivia: so soft you can barely hear it. The rose was completely spontaneous. The flower seller was setting up at 5:15 a.m., saw the camera crew, and simply walked over and handed Julie the flower. Linklater kept the camera rolling and told Ethan to react naturally. The look on his face in that moment, pure wonder, is exactly what you see in the finished film. They reach the edge of a small cemetery, the Friedhof der Namenlosen, the cemetery of the nameless, where unknown bodies washed up by the Danube were once buried. The gates are open. They walk inside slowly, footsteps muffled by moss and fallen leaves. The headstones are small and weathered, some marked only with a simple cross. The air is cool and smells of earth and distant water. Céline reads the dates aloud, 1892, 1907, 1931, and wonders who these people were, what songs they loved, what their last thoughts might have been. Jesse stands behind her, arms loosely around her waist now, chin resting on her hair. For a long time neither of them speaks. There is nothing to say that the silence doesn't already know. Let the quiet of that place settle over you now. The kind of quiet that holds everything gently. No need to fill it. Just rest inside it. The cemetery air is cool and heavy with the scent of wet earth and old roses left by strangers long ago. Dawn is still only a pale rumor on the horizon, but the darkness has softened into something gentler, almost blue. Jesse's arms stay loosely around Céline's waist as they walk between the graves, their footsteps muffled by decades of fallen leaves. Every now and then she stops to trace a carved name with her fingertip, and he waits, patient, feeling the small rise and fall of her breathing against his chest. Céline whispers, so softly the words barely disturb the air. Do you think they knew they were loved? Even without names. Jesse rests his cheek against her hair and answers just as quietly. I hope someone held them the way I'm holding you right now, just once, so they knew the world could be tender. The wind moves through the trees, and it sounds exactly like a sigh from 100 nameless souls giving their blessing. They leave the cemetery and follow a narrow path that leads down to the Danube itself. The river is wide and slow here, black silk sliding past the city. A lone barge drifts by, its running lights painting soft red and green ribbons on the water. They sit on the grassy bank, knees drawn up, shoulders touching. Céline takes the white rose from behind her ear and sets it floating on the surface. It spins once, twice, then glides away like a tiny boat carrying their silence downstream. Have you ever let something beautiful go on purpose, trusting the current to carry it somewhere safe? Just feel that small ache of release, and then the warmth that follows, let it settle behind your ribs like a sleeping bird. Jesse lies back on the grass, arms behind his head, staring up at the sky that is finally beginning to pale. Céline stays sitting, hugging her knees, watching the rose disappear. After a long while she lies down beside him, close enough that their shoulders and hips touch the entire length. The grass is cool and damp beneath them, smelling green and alive. Overhead, the first star has already surrendered to morning. Jesse turns his face toward her. I have this theory, he says, voice low and a little rough from the night air, that when two people spend an entire night talking honestly, really honestly, something happens to time. It stops being linear. All the minutes we have left in our lives get rearranged around this one night. Céline listens without moving, then whispers, so right now we're living in the center of everything? Exactly, he breathes. Everything before led here. Everything after will reach back to here. They turn toward each other at the same moment. Their faces are very close now, close enough that each can feel the warmth of the other's breath. Céline's hand finds his cheek, thumb brushing the faint stubble there. Jesse's fingers slide into her hair, tucking a loose strand behind her ear the way she did on the train a lifetime ago. And then, finally, they kiss. It is not rushed. It is not cinematic. It is slow and careful and trembling, like two people learning how to breathe underwater. When they part, their foreheads stay touching. Neither of them speaks for a long, long time. Trivia. Almost inaudible. This kiss was the very last thing they filmed. It was 5:47 a.m., real dawn, freezing cold, and both actors were so exhausted they were shaking. Linklater told them to forget the script, forget the crew, just kiss like the night was actually ending forever. They did. And when they pulled apart, Julie Delpy was crying real tears that weren't in the screenplay. They kept it in the final cut. The sky turns from lavender to peach. They walk again, fingers finally bravely laced together. They find a tiny cafe that has just opened its doors. The owner, an old woman with kind eyes, brings them 2 glasses of hot chocolate without being asked. The steam curls up between them like incense. Céline wraps both hands around her glass and watches the sunrise reflected in Jesse's eyes. He watches it reflected in hers. They don't need to say how beautiful it is. They just sip slowly and let the warmth travel all the way down into their tired bones. Have you ever watched a sunrise with someone and felt the rest of your life quietly rearranging itself around that single moment? Just let that feeling bloom behind your eyes now. Soft pink and gold. No need to name it. Just let it be. They wander to the Prater amusement park again, now completely deserted in the early light. They climb into one of the motionless Ferris wheel gondolas and sit side by side, legs dangling over the edge. The city below them is waking up slowly, windows glowing one by one like someone lighting candles in a giant birthday cake. Jesse rests his head against Celine's. "I don't want to go back," he says. "Me neither," she answers. They sit in silence until the park attendant arrives and gently tells them the ride will start soon for the day. They climb down, laughing a little at how stiff their bodies have become from the cold and the walking and the wonder. They find a listening booth in an old record shop that has opened early. The owner lets them choose 1 song for free. Céline picks "Come Here" by Kath Bloom, a song she says always makes her cry in the best way. They sit on the little bench inside the booth, headphones shared, 1 earpiece each. The needle drops. The guitar begins. Kath Bloom's voice fills their heads, fragile and true. Celine's eyes fill with tears almost immediately. Jesse feels his own throat tighten. When the lyric comes, "There's a silence in the air, and I'm wondering if you care." Céline turns to look at him, and the tears spill over. He brushes them away with his thumb, then leans in and kisses her again, slower this time, tasting salt and chocolate and the entire night on her lips. Trivia: Feather Soft. The song was chosen the night before shooting. Julie Delpy played it for Linklater in his hotel room and said, "If this doesn't play while they fall in love, I'll quit." He listened once and immediately rewrote the scene around it. The tears you see are real, the shaking hands are real, everything is real. They leave the shop and walk toward the train station again, steps slower now, as if they could stretch the distance forever. The streets are filling with early workers and delivery vans. The spell is thinning, but not broken. Not yet. At a small playground, they stop to sit on the swings. Céline pumps her legs gently, rising and falling like a slow tide. Jesse watches her hair lift in the morning breeze and feels something inside his chest crack open in the gentlest way. She drags her feet to stop and says, very quietly, "We should make a plan. 6 months from today. Same platform. No phone numbers. No addresses. If we both show up, we'll know it was real." Jesse nods, throat too tight for words. December 16th. He manages. 6 months. They look at each other across the empty playground, swings creaking softly, and the promise hangs between them like a soap bubble, perfect and impossibly fragile. Have you ever made a promise you weren't sure you could keep, but made it anyway because not making it would hurt more? Just let that promise rest in your heart tonight. Light as a bubble, strong as sunrise. The morning light is fully here now, soft and golden, turning every window into a little fire. The city smells of fresh bread and coffee, and the faint metallic tang of tram rails warming in the sun. Jesse and Céline walk hand in hand toward the West Bahnhof, no longer rushing, no longer able to pretend the night can stretch even one more minute. Their fingers are tightly laced, knuckles pale, as if letting go would mean losing the entire night all at once. They pass a bakery where an old man is setting out trays of warm kipferl. The buttery scent drifts over them, and Céline inhales deeply, eyes closing for a second. Jessie watches the way her lashes rest against her cheeks and thinks this is the most beautiful she has ever been. Exhausted, hair tangled from grass and wind, lips a little swollen from kissing, the white rose long gone but its memory still tucked behind her ear somehow. Have you ever noticed how the simplest smells, warm bread, train brakes, morning air, can hold an entire love story if you let them? Just breathe in slowly now. Let Vienna fill your lungs one last time. They reach the station. The big clock shows 6:28. Céline's train to Paris leaves at 6:45. Jesse's flight is later, but it doesn't matter. He will stay on this platform until the train disappears. People are moving around them now, commuters, travelers, cleaners. But Jesse and Céline stand perfectly still in the middle of the current, an island no one else can see. Céline looks up at the departures board, then back at him. Her eyes are bright with unshed tears, but her mouth tries to smile. 6 months, she says. December 16th. Same place. Jesse nods, throat working. If we're meant to be, we'll both be here, he answers. The words feel both impossible and inevitable at the same time. They move to the edge of the platform. The train is already waiting, silver and blue, doors open like patient mouths. Céline's hand slips from his. For the first time in hours they are not touching. The absence feels physical, like a sudden drop in temperature. She takes one step backward, then another, never breaking eye contact. Jesse raises his hand in the smallest wave. Céline mirrors it, palm open, fingers trembling just slightly. Trivia, the softest one yet. This goodbye was filmed in one single unbroken take at actual dawn on the last day of shooting. The train you see pulling in is a real scheduled train to Paris. When the doors closed and it actually left the station, both Ethan and Julie stood on the platform crying for 20 minutes while the crew packed up in silence. Linklater said later that was the moment he knew the film was finished. Nothing else could follow that truth. Céline steps onto the train. The doors slide shut with a gentle hydraulic sigh. For one heartbeat, she is framed in the window, hand pressed flat against the glass. Jesse places his own hand on the outside of the window, directly over hers. The train begins to move, slowly at first, then faster. Their hands stay aligned as long as physics allows, then slip apart. Céline's face disappears behind reflections and morning light. Jesse stands alone on the empty platform, watching the train shrink to a silver dot and vanish around the curve. He stays there a long time. The sun climbs higher. Pigeons land and take off again. A cleaning woman sweeps past him, humming something old in Viennese. Finally, Jesse picks up his backpack, shoulders it, and walks away. The camera, if there still was one, would linger on his retreating figure, small against the huge station, until he too disappears. Have you ever watched someone you love leave and felt your heart walk away with them? Just let that ache be there tonight, soft and safe, because even the deepest ache means you were brave enough to feel everything. The screen fades to black, but we stay a little longer in the quiet. The credits will roll someday, but not yet. Right now, there is only the sound of a train far away, growing fainter, and the gentle rhythm of your own breathing matching it, slower. One last reflection, barely above silence. Somewhere, 6 months from that morning, a train will pull into Vienna Westbahnhof at exactly the right moment. 2 people will step onto the platform. Or maybe only one will. Or maybe neither. The film never tells us. And that is the most perfect ending anyone could give a night like this. The door left open, the possibility left breathing. You don't need to know what happens next. You only need to know that for one night in 1994, 2 souls were completely, terrifyingly, beautifully honest with each other. And that honesty is still traveling somewhere inside you now, looking for the place it belongs. Let it find that place tonight. Let it settle. Let it carry you all the way into sleep. The station is empty now, only the low hum of fluorescent lights and the distant echo of a departing train that has already carried Céline west toward Paris. Jesse stands on the platform a moment longer, hands in his pockets, watching the place where the silver carriages disappeared. The morning sun is warm on his face, but he feels cool inside, like someone has opened a window in his chest and let the night keep blowing through. He smiles, small and private, then turns and walks away, his footsteps soft against the concrete, fading. And you are fading with him, deeper into the gentlest dark. Let everything soften now. Let the golden Vienna morning dissolve the way old photographs do, when you hold them too close to candlelight. Edges first, then colors, then the faces themselves, until all that remains is the feeling they left behind. A feeling that has no name yet, but tastes like hope, and smells like rain on warm stone, and sounds like 2 people laughing at 4 in the morning because the world suddenly makes sense. Breathe in that feeling, hold it for one slow heartbeat, and breathe it out even slower. Good. Again. In, out. Each breath carrying you further from the platform, further from the city, further from the need to know what happens 6 months from now. Because tonight doesn't need a sequel. Tonight only needs sleep. Imagine the white rose Céline set on the Danube has floated all the way to the sea by now. Imagine it is still spinning gently in some quiet current. Imagine every secret they told each other has become a tiny star, and all those stars are slowly drifting down to cover you like the softest blanket ever woven. 1 star for the Ferris wheel kiss, 1 for the nameless cemetery, 1 for the listening booth tears, 1 for the promise neither of them wrote down, but both of them will carry forever. Let those stars settle on your eyelids, cool, weightless, sparkling just enough to remind you that something beautiful happened, and that beautiful things are allowed to end exactly when they are perfect. Shh. No more thinking, no more wondering, only drifting. Somewhere far away a church bell rings 7 times, 7 soft notes that ripple across the rooftops and find their way to you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And on the 7th bell, the entire city exhales, and you exhale with it, long, slow, complete. The last amber street lamp clicks off, The first morning birds begin their quiet conversation, and everything that needs to be said has already been whispered. You are safe. You are held. You are exactly where you are meant to be. Sleep now. Sleep deep. Let Vienna keep walking without you. Let Jesse and Céline keep walking without each other. Let the night keep every promise it never had to speak out loud. Good night, sweet dreams. Thank you for walking with them. Thank you for letting me walk with you. She. Sleep.